Yo, what's up, fight fans? This is Gant, aka Saeen, aka the godfather of YouTube boxing analysis videos. I'm coming out of my hiatus just so I can give my reaction to the long-awaited Mayweather versus Pacquiao bout. So, let's get into this Maypac business. Alright, so going into the fight, let's just take it from the top. Let's just really just break it down from the top without trying to become too overly exhaustive about it. Everybody was excited about the fight. We'll just start from there. Everyone was excited about the fight, including myself. You guys have seen videos that I've posted. I've taken the time out to watch a lot of other videos as well from other very talented YouTube video analysts that's come up over the last 4 years since I've been doing videos. Not saying I'm the first who have ever done a video, but just paying attention to other guys and showing love to other people's channels as well. Visiting tons of blogs, forums, news websites like ESPN, BoxingScene.com, etc. You know, everybody was excited just going into this fight. And, you know, the Vegas odds, I mean, there were so many questions also going into the fight. So the first thing I'm going to touch on, just to recap, is what the Vegas odds were. I'm sorry, I'm going to be looking to my left, which is probably your camera right a lot, because I got a few little notes. I kind of want to have some, don't want to be all over the place or whatever while I'm doing this. So, yeah, the Vegas odds. The Vegas odds generally had Mayweather a 2-to-1 favorite. Some would even say in Vegas he would go, he would have as much as a 5-to-2. He'd be a 5-to-2 favorite to win over Pacquiao, anywhere from a 2-to-1 to 5-to-2. Now, what's interesting as a juxtaposition to that, and I'm pretty sure a lot of you are already aware of this, in the eyes of fans, when the polls were ran by Showtime and HBO for the actual pay-per-view event itself on the night of the broadcast, which was yesterday, 67% of fans favored Pacquiao over Mayweather to actually win the fight. Now that's pretty interesting, not to say the least. Vegas says 2-to-1, probably stretching it all the way up to 5-to-2. The fan says 67% of fans said we favor Pacquiao to win. So, having said that, going into the fight, what were the keys to victory for both of the guys? I'm not sure what your keys to victory are, but I read a few keys to victory that was actually offered up by HBO, I believe, in Showtime as well, in addition to ESPN and a couple of other news syndicates, in addition to myself. So this is the general consensus that I gathered together, pretty much 3 to 4 points per guy. For Pacquiao, apply intelligent pressure. What was key for Pacquiao going into this fight was his ability to apply intelligent pressure from a sense of engaging Mayweather, but doing so in an intelligent fashion that would not put himself in danger of being countered too often. The goal for Pacquiao was to next use his footwork and angles to be able to pull that off. Third bullet point, to throw a lot of punches once he is in position to throw a lot of punches. And bringing those three together, those would be a really great set of keys for victory for Pacquiao. The general consensus is Mayweather is the best counterpuncher in the game. Obviously, he's a better counterpuncher than any other previous opponent that Pacquiao has faced. So the concerns were for Pacquiao, who is known for being an ultra aggressive fighter, who will love to bring the fight to you every second of each round, which is amazing. We all love that as boxing fans. But fighting against a guy like Mayweather, the worry was that Pacquiao's fighting style can play into Mayweather's hands. So for Pacquiao's keys to victory, the consensus is you need to apply intelligent pressure. Feint your way in, use a lot of head movement, finally feint your way in, let off a nice little flurry, don't over-engage yourself, and get on out of there, rinse and repeat, and try to stay out of the middle of the ring. That was Pacquiao's general keys to victory. Now, moving on over to Floyd Mayweather, bullet point number 1, be intelligent. Remain yourself. Be intelligent from a standpoint of don't be moved by the crowd, because it was expected that the majority of the crowd would be pro-Pacquiao, and it just was that, and it was exactly that night. So not letting those things affect your judgment, not letting the emotionality of all the perceived shots fired in the media over the last 5 years toward Floyd Mayweather, not allow that to get into your head. Allow yourself just to stay focused, stay calm, stay patient while you're gonna encounter a lot of these barrages and high activity from Manny Pacquiao. Use the straight right hand. This in opposite can actually go for Pacquiao as well. Whenever you have orthodox fighters versus southpaw fighters, The straight left hand for southpaw is a key punch, and for the orthodox fighter, the straight right hand is a key punch, which for Floyd Mayweather is one of his favorite punches in variety. Straight coming down the middle, faking the straight, arcing it around the guard, or faking the straight to the face, going straight down to the body. That's one of his strong punches he would actually need to implement, utilize in that fight. Avoid the corner. Third bullet point for Floyd. At all cost, everybody said, man, you need to avoid the corner. You saw what happened to Tim Bradley. When Tim Bradley went to the corners, Manny Pacquiao flurried him out to death. 10 punch combinations. Even though not all of them were landing, they look fantastic in the eyes of the judges. Apologize about that. They look fantastic in the eyes of the judges. So just being able to stay away from the corner so that you will not fall prey to Manny Pacquiao's flurries and or possibly get caught by something flush and end up going down, because that could definitely happen. Staying out of the corner. Avoid the corner. Third bullet point. Fourth, stay active. Since the Maidana fight, a lot of people have been taken away. One of the biggest takeaways that people have had looking at the Maidana fight was that Floyd's a little bit more flat-footed now. He's a little bit slower, doesn't like to move around, doesn't like to bounce. Can he afford to do this when he's fighting Manny Pacquiao, who is ultra aggressive, has fantastic footwork, who bounces around and tries to create angles? It would be in Floyd's best benefit to not be stationary. Also, for him to stay active, so that way he would not get down on the scorecards due to activity. It's okay for Pacquiao to flurry, but you need to make sure that you're active, Floyd, so that way you will be able to score cleanly, so that you can make sure that you keep the perception of the action quite balanced. So those were the 4 keys for each guy, going into the bout. More or less 3 for Manny, more or less we can say 4 for Manny as well if you want to include the straight left hand in as a 4th bullet point. I definitely should have included that because he is an orthodox and a southpaw fighter. So now going into the fight, the next thing I want to talk about is the perceived advantages and disadvantages for each fighter. And I would love to hear from you guys what you guys felt were your perceived advantages and disadvantages for each fighter going into this mega bout. Here are mine. Well, I pretty much read what everybody else is saying across the media, across the web. I mean, anywhere, ESPN, First Take that you look at. Not saying that's the absolute best source, but I'm just letting you know where my ears were, where my ears were getting information from. Me being on Sirius XM radio, listening to Mad Dog Sports and the Sports Zone. Not trying to give them a plug, but just letting you know what radio stations I listen to mostly. The general public consensus was Manny has faster hands, faster feet, and more power. And generally, more activity, right? So that was an advantage for Pacquiao, which on the flip side is a disadvantage for Floyd, being that quote-unquote Floyd hadn't fought somebody with this much hand speed in a long time since Zab Judah, if you've done your homework. Zab Judah doesn't really throw punches in bunches, but he's pretty much just as fast as Floyd and Pacquiao. That dude's lightning fast. The next one, Floyd is a better sharpshooter, but eventually he could be overwhelmed by Pacquiao's activity and end up losing on points if he doesn't get caught by something flush. So that was the general consensus going into the fight. How long could Floyd keep Pacquiao off of him? Does Floyd have the footwork to keep Pacquiao away from him and keep the action going? Those are very, very valid questions considering Floyd's last performance against Maidana, where many people perceived it as we're seeing that Floyd is slowing down. Does he have footwork? Floyd doesn't like to move that fast. He likes to be able to to pace you and walk you down, at a steady pace, at his own pace that's comfortable for him. So those things going into the fight really, really, really made all of this so interesting. That's why so many people were 50-50. They were on the fence. There were so many people who could not give their pick for the fight. They were delivering more or less possible outcomes. How many people did you hear say, well, if Floyd does this, then the fight could go like blah, 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 and it could be bad for Manny in this way. Or if Pacquiao did this, it could be blah, blah, blah. So let's just see what happens. People were giving those kind of quasi predictions because they really weren't predictions. They weren't predicting anything. They were just talking about the possibilities of what each fighter could do. Not a lot of people were willing to stand and say, this is who I think is going to win. This is who I think is going to win. But a lot of the legends, as we got closer and closer to the fight, were willing to say that. They were willing to say, hey, look, Floyd's going to win or Pacquiao's going to win. Having said that, HBO released a special called Legend Speak, Pacquiao Mayweather, if I remember correctly, Legend Speak, in which they interviewed all 5 common opponents between Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather. And the majority of those 5 common opponents picked Floyd Mayweather to win the bout, which pretty much corroborates with the Vegas consensus. So that was the perception going into the fight. Now let's actually get to the fight. Maybach, peace. All right, so it was electric last night. I mean, we all enjoyed it. It was electric on the night of May 2nd. I mean, goosebumps. You know, it was just electric. One thing I noticed going into the fight, even into the weigh-in, all the way through this, and this is just me. You guys let me know what you think about this. This is a 301 advanced topic, you know, in psychology, if you really want to think about it. So you let me know what you think. Manny Pacquiao is a Christian who pronounces his Christianity to anybody who's willing to listen, whether it's by phone, whether it's by interview, whether it's by ear to ear, whatever. This is the first fight that Manny Pacquiao took his Christianity to crusade levels. From the perspective, to the extent that everywhere he went, he talked about, you know, his Christianity, his faith, and how he actually projected his faith onto the fight. For the first time, I've never heard Manny Pacquiao say, for the first time ever, I heard Manny Pacquiao say, I believe that God will deliver Floyd into my hands. I interpreted that very interesting, in an interesting way. I have a deep sports background 100 pounds ago when I was a lot slimmer and a lot younger. That when I would notice in a competitor self-confidence and confidence rooted on external factors. So immediately, here's what I mean by that. Immediately when I heard Pacquiao shifting his confidence to external, let's say, factors, that immediately told me that Pacquiao wasn't 100% sure that he can win the fight on his own. Now, this is very interesting. Some people would say, well, there's nothing wrong with a guy having faith. There's nothing wrong with a guy believing in his God, believing in, you know, his faith. You're absolutely right. There isn't any. But that really stood out to me that he went out of his way to interject his confidence, to tunnel his confidence through a higher power, as opposed to saying, I can do this, I can do this, I can do this. Now, he did say in the initial press conference that I'm ready for Floyd's speed, I'm ready for his defense, whatever he wants to do. If he wants to run, I'm ready for it. If he wants to stand in the pocket and defend, I'm ready for it as well. But increasingly, as the press conferences, you know, began to mature, as we began to become closer and closer and closer to the fight, he began to really lean more and more and more to that side, which really kind of made me pay attention to, you know, to a lot of key things. Now, this made Pacquiao very relaxed. This made Pacquiao feel like he had a lot of joy. His faith in God, in his God, made him believe that he could win. It made him ultra relaxed, more relaxed than normal, if you really ask me. Pacquiao comes, usually when Pacquiao does his introduction, which is what I'm segueing to going into the fight, I said all that to say, when he came out, it was very disturbing to me that he and Freddie Roach were taking selfies. That showed me that, yes, while you are enjoying the moment, I question how locked in you are on the enormity of who you are fighting. And it could be that Pacquiao was drinking his own Kool-Aid in the sense that he really began to believe that Floyd Mayweather Jr. was afraid of him. Now, whether or not Floyd Mayweather Jr. is afraid of him is a question that you guys can answer for yourselves. However, I can tell you this much, and I think you guys would safely agree, that regardless of whether or not, if you believe Floyd Mayweather Jr. is afraid of you, you still have to acknowledge that he's the most immaculate fighter that you're about to step into the ring with. And that fear is not going to crumble this guy. So you need to come in with a little bit of dog in you, a little more dog in you, and a little less Sesame Street. That was one of the things that really stood out to me. Now, granted, when I saw them taking a selfie, I didn't say, well, there it is. That's the end of the fight. You know, this is the reason why he's going to lose tonight. No, that wasn't it. It just didn't sit well with me, is the point that I'm making. And we all know that Pacquiao is good for smiling and turning it on once the bell rings. So that is his performance. Questioning whether or not he'd have that dog in him was really not on the table for me. But I question how much veracity he would have, and how much focus, and how much he would really accept the overall enormity of the moment. And let me tell you what that means. When you accept the enormity of something, you take every measure possible so that you can be prepared to take full advantage of the moment or perform your absolute best. I wasn't the kind of guy who was smiley when it was basketball time, when it was football time. I wasn't that guy. I wasn't Ray Lewis, who was also dancing all over the place, but I was definitely very stoic, very quiet, very focused in, because I understood that things like laughter and jokes really took me out of the focus on, it really took me out of my place where I like to be, where I'm focusing on the game plan. I'm focusing how to execute. If you're focusing on being loose, you're not focusing on the task at hand. Let me say that one more time, because the human brain is very black and white. It's not gray. You really can't multitask that much as you think you can. So if you're focused on being happy, being loose, and not worrying about anything, that means you're focusing on being happy. You're focusing on being loose. You're focusing on not worrying. If you're focusing on those things, you're not focusing 100% on executing game plan. Just my thoughts. You guys let me know what you think about that. So, having said that, when Floyd came out, very stoic, very quiet. I'm sure many of you interpreted that as nervousness. I interpreted that as some nervousness, absolutely. Because at this level, when you're fighting at this level, it's going to be some nervousness. And nervousness is healthy because it can help you be a little bit more cautious than what you normally would be. It can help prevent you walking into some shots that you otherwise would have walked into had you come into the ring too loose, too guns a-blazing. So I wasn't really worried about that. I was actually happy with Floyd's tension as he began to come down to the ring, because he was understanding the enormity of what he was facing. Healthy fear, I believe that's good too. If Floyd was a little bit afraid, that's absolutely good, because it helps you stay in a position, in the mindset of, let me be careful. Let me take my time and not rush in. Let me just really measure this guy out before I really go into the ring guns a-blazing and allow myself to be subdued by arrogance, because that can happen too. How many fighters you get into the ring, the way they respond to a big moment is they respond to it with arrogance. They'll say, man, I'm not worried about this guy. This dude is a hype job. This dude is short. He has nothing going for him. There's no way he can touch me. Well, you just fell for the trap. And because of that, when you go into the ring, you're not taking him seriously. By the time you have taken him too seriously, you probably got knocked down 2 or 3 times. And dealing with a guy like Pacquiao, that could very well happen. So that was my first observation when the guys, got introduced into the fight. The next thing was actually going into the fight. So let's start it with round 1. I'm not going to take you through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I'm just going to give you my general consensus on what I saw in the beginning, middle, then end, and then the aftermath. So, having said that, it was apparent to me from the opening bell that this was completely different for Pacquiao. Not in the sense that Pacquiao was afraid, not in the sense that Pacquiao didn't know how to handle the magnitude of the moment, but from a sense that Pacquiao could not control ebb and flow from the very beginning. Do yourselves a favor. Go back and look at Pacquiao Marquez 4. Go back and look at, as a matter of fact, Pacquiao Algieri. Go back and look at that fight as well. From the opening bell, the first thing that Manny Pacquiao does when he comes out, he's pretty much halfway across the ring. And when he comes out, he immediately throws like a hook and starts moving you around a little bit with head movement. And his opponent generally backs up and moves away from him. What is that telling you? That's telling you that Pacquiao can control the ebb and flow. His speed and his ferocity is too intense for his opponent, so his opponent responds by backing away. That's a very key thing. Not one punch was thrown yet, but you can read that if you have discerning eyes from the very beginning. Whose ebb and flow is moving, the person back and forth. Kind of think of it as an invisible magnetic field around the earth. You have 2 entities, and you can see this magnetic field as one ramps up their magnetic field, the other one kind of fades back a little bit, and then vice versa. It's a seesaw. It's invisible, but you can see it manifested in the body language and the movement of the fighters. Is one fighter getting in the ring and they're pushing the other guy back and they're pushing the other guy back? That doesn't mean the guy who's moving back is going to lose, but you pay attention to those kind of things. And what I saw immediately from the onset was Floyd was on top of Manny immediately. I figured that would happen because that's pretty much how Floyd fights southpaws. He likes to extend his left arm out so that he can occupy the southpaw's lead right arm for the purpose of confusion. That's very, very key. It's very key for the simple fact that you can't rush in now because you have to address my lead left arm out here reaching and tapping your lead right arm. You have to address it. Having said that, the other reason why Pacquiao couldn't necessarily back up Mayweather in the very opening stanza of that started with the opening bell is because he immediately can feel it and realize it, that this man is as fast as me. He has reflexes and anticipation, and he has what's the other word? Reflexes, anticipation. What was the other word? Friggin' instinct. As much instinct as I do. That's a major part in the fight. It's not just about those punches being thrown. It's about a man's ability to be able to feel what's coming. So when Pacquiao or Mayweather makes a little bit of an inching step forward, and the opponent makes the perfect response, that means you can't attack him right now. That man can feel it. That's that magnetic ebb and flow that's invisible to our normal eyes, but we can see it manifested in the way that the guys tango back and forth. That's what's going on. And Pacquiao couldn't just bull rush him because he was not able to bull rush him, because Floyd's ebb and flow was just amazing, just as amazing as his was. So that's the first thing I noticed. So I knew that this fight wasn't going to be the type of fight where Pacquiao would just hound the guy and break him down to his will over time. So coming out, they both were throwing really good punches. And immediately I saw Floyd doing what other people have not been able to do. If you go back and look at my videos where I did the video about Pacquiao Marquez 4, in which I talked about why Marquez has success against Pacquiao, one of the things that you're going to note is I mentioned that one thing that Marquez simply does is he backs away from Pacquiao. He lets Pacquiao come forward. That's one thing that he does. He does it most of the time because he's really not quick enough to press the action on Pacquiao all the time, because he could get countered himself. Well, in this case, having said that, Marquez is not always fast enough to counter Pacquiao when Pacquiao does throw and he gets out of position. Well, we saw that very fast in the opening stanza, in the opening minute or so of this fight. Mayweather was tagging Pacquiao as Pacquiao was getting ready to come in. Wasn't excessive tagging, but just a little touch. That lets you know that I'm just as quick as you, and every time you make a move, when you do your head, Floyd put a little nudge on him. That let Pacquiao know, wow, I can't just get in here as easy as I thought I would. And that also helped Mayweather control range. That's the very first thing I saw. Mayweather was controlling range from the onset of the very first bell. He was keeping Pacquiao at the edge of his left arm, so that way if Pacquiao tried to do his little thing and ultimately jump and dive in, Mayweather would back up, pop, hit him just a little bit and just keep him off of him. Then once they would reset, Mayweather would throw like the little left hands out just a couple times so Pacquiao would back up and do his little thing. What's the point of that? Keeping him away from you, letting him know I'm just as quick as you are when we are resetting these stanzas. So that's the first thing that I saw. So having said that, once they start getting each other's rhythm, I saw Floyd accepting that the way he was going to fight him was he was going to fight him in the center of the ring at times, and he was going to allow Pacquiao to come to him so Pacquiao can present him with opportunities to counter, which he did throughout the majority of the night by lunging in. Floyd would either hit him with the left hook, hit him with the straight hand, or hit him with the body, or just wrap him up when he'd get too close. And that's just good boxing strategy. So it became apparent to me after a while that Pacquiao was out of his league. Out of his league in the sense that he was reduced. That's just what it is. And so when we look back over how those things happened in the fight, when Pacquiao showed me some really cool wrinkles as well. He showed me that he was able to counter Floyd. When he hit Floyd with that straight left hand in the fourth round that woke Floyd up and threw him back, that was really great that he was able to do that. Then he was able to tee off about 10 to 11 punches, on the Floyd's body, some of them landing, some of them not landing. But that was a fantastic moment for Manny Pacquiao. The fourth round was his absolute best round. To me, he controlled most of that round, straightforward. I would say 90% of that round. And the sixth round was an amazing round for him. But as the night pretty much ended, it was clear that Mayweather had answers for everything Pacquiao was going to do. When Pacquiao lunges forward, like he does with everybody, Mayweather was the first guy to really dominate all of that. Pacquiao would come in and lunge. One thing Mayweather would do, he's throw the left hook. Even if it didn't hit, and if it connected to the back of Floyd's head where he can push him out of the way and just spin him around and just start over again, that was control. That was control. It just wasn't easy for him to come in. Another thing that was interesting is, as Pacquiao does his feints, when he's getting ready to come in, he's like, jab step, and I'm about to come in. Pacquiao did a good job at not just overly rushing. He would jab step, and Mayweather would fall back like this onto the ropes, and Mayweather did something that was just awesome that showed you why he's so different from everybody else. He waited. He sat there. Tim Bradley, the way he responded to Floyd's feint, to Pacquiao's feints was when Pacquiao would jab and come at him, or feint like he was coming at him, Tim Bradley got to a point where he stood back and he just winged a haymaker. Just winged it. Why did he do that? He did that because his anticipation skills aren't as high as Floyd's. He's not as comfortable. He's tense. Whereas Floyd was just sitting there just waiting. Then when Pacquiao started going off, Floyd will respond accordingly. Pacquiao would get maybe one in. Sometimes he would get two in. But he was much more relaxed than any other opponent. But he responded in a much more controlled and relaxed fashion than any other Pacquiao opponent has in the history of Pacquiao's opponent list or roster, you know, from people who he's ever faced. So at the end of the day, it was rinse and repeat after that. It was just straight up rinse and repeat. I'll pull you in, counter you. If you lunge at me, I'll roll you, but if I can't roll you, I'll wrap you up, or I hit you with the straight right hand coming in. After I hit you with the straight right hand, push you to get you off me, or wrap you up to neutralize you and suffocate you. That was everything in a nutshell. Everything in a nutshell. That's what happened to Pacquiao. And Pacquiao had no plan B. He had no plan C, like he actually said he would in the first press conference. He said, if Floyd runs, I got a plan for that. Floyd wants to stay in the pocket, I got a plan for that. If Floyd wants to box, I got a plan for that. That sounds like a three-tiered plan. That sounds like A, B, and C to me. He only showed plan A, lunging in. Once he wasn't able to lunge in, I mean, there was nothing more that he actually showed. Yeah, there were other things he could have did, but he really didn't actually do anything else. So, as we look at this from a CompuBox standpoint, this is just staggering. Floyd Mayweather Jr. held Manny Pacquiao, who is heralded as the most prolific offensive, threat that Floyd was ever going to face. He held him to 81 punches landed. That's phenomenal. That is friggin' phenomenal. This is a guy who's rapid punch, rapid fire, doing everything he can do, just rapid fire, and he was held to under 100 punches landed. So, I mean, if we just want to do, I don't know, some basic math. I'm going to pull up a calculator here real quick. Let's just go ahead and do some basic math. Let's just say 81 divided by 12, right? And we probably already know what that answer is. 6.75 punches landed per round. Whoa. Granted, Mayweather landed 148, which is only like about, 67 punches more. But when we consider the fact that this was done to Manny Pacquiao, that is staggering. That is absolutely staggering. He held him to 19%. 19%. That is staggering. So, just to add further context, if we have 36 minutes in a bout, let's divide 81 by 36 minutes. Yeah, that's pretty telling. So, Floyd ended with a connect percentage of 34% on the night. Pacquiao ended with a connect percentage of 19%. Floyd actually threw 6 more punches than Pacquiao. I would have never expected that. I was expecting, if anything, I was expecting the typical Mayweather night in which he throws less than his opponents but lands double what his opponents land. But according to CompuBox, he threw 6 more punches than Pacquiao did. I can see that, but I'm definitely going to go back and look at the video myself and just count every single punch that these guys have thrown, minus the filling out jabs or whatnot. So, having said that, what are some of the 5 takeaways, that I learned, from this fight? First things first, this was a legacy fight. This was the fight to determine who's the best of this generation. And Mayweather is the best of this generation. Let's let that settle for a little bit. Mayweather is the best of this generation. That's what this fight was about. For the last 5 years, everybody wanted Mayweather to face Pacquiao or Pacquiao to face Mayweather. However, you perceive this. And now that he's done so and defeated Pacquiao, there's nothing more that we can say. There's nothing more at all that we can say. He's the best of this generation. The fight did live up. The fight failed to live up to expectations of the general public because it wasn't enough explosive action for them, I suppose. But for me, however, it lived up to the action. It lived up to the action, not because I'm a fan of Floyd, or I'm a fan of Pacquiao. It lived up to the action because you guys know I'm a sweet science guy. I'm not a rock'em sock'em robot kind of guy. As a matter of fact, I get frustrated when I see two guys just throwing at each other and just not blocking. When I watched Ward Gaddy, I was disgusted with it. Awesome fight. Don't get me wrong. Legendary fight, legendary night by two legendary guys. But I was so damn frustrated. Block a damn punch. Then at the end of the night, when you lose on the scorecards by one punch, or I'm sorry, by a point or two, the first thing you start thinking is, damn, if I would have slipped a few jabs, I probably could have won this fight. Yeah, you probably could have. So just to give you insight, on me, that's the kind of guy I am. I'm a sweet science kind of guy. I like to hit you, boom, and make you miss. I like watching that. I like seeing a person being broken down defensively, just being, outwitted. I love that. That's what I kind of cater to. I'm sure you guys may be a little bit different, but that's what I cater to. That's what I'm attracted to the most. So for me, it lived up to expectations, but for the general masses, it didn't live up to expectations, which is really interesting. Let's talk about that. Why didn't the fight live up to expectations to the general public? Why would anyone think that Floyd Mayweather would stand toe-to-toe with Manny Pacquiao and trade punches? Why would anybody think that Manny Pacquiao would do anything other than just be aggressive? That's what he normally does. So both of these fighters brought their fight games to the squared circle. Pacquiao was aggressive. Floyd was the boxing mastermind who was waiting for his opportunities, and he would pot shot here and there. That's what they do. So I don't even understand the disappointment in it. You should have known that going into the fight. You should have acknowledged that. Somewhere along the lines, when you were taking in all the hype, not you necessarily, but for those who were disappointed by it, somewhere along the lines, those people who were taking in the hype, they took a real big gulp of delusion. Because I don't know why you would think that Mayweather would ever be a toe-to-toe guy. I don't know why you would think that Pacquiao would ever stand and outbox Mayweather. Or, he would be able to just dominate Mayweather all the way through. And if he did, that would have been great. But you couldn't have truly in your heart of hearts said, I guarantee 100% that Pacquiao would be able to do that. So I'm at odds about that one. On the next one, Pacquiao had no plan B or C. Some people would say he never tried for the knockout at the end of the fight when he knew that he was close to losing. Some people would say he never tried to really come at angles. Some people would say he only came at straight angles. I say, because I saw, that this is what Pacquiao was reduced to. Pacquiao even said himself during the post-fight interview when he was in the ring with Max Kellerman. Max Kellerman asked him something about Floyd moving around. When Pacquiao said, well, he was moving around, I really couldn't do what I wanted to do. No. Max Kellerman asked him, what happened to the punches and bunches and all the shots that we've seen you throw against other opponents? Pacquiao said with his own words, it's hard to throw punches like that when the opponent is moving. It's hard to throw a lot of punches like that when the opponent is moving. I'll say it again. Pacquiao said it is hard to throw punches like that in bunches, in succession, combos, rapid fire, when an opponent is moving. So really, it's not that Pacquiao didn't have a plan B or C. It's that Pacquiao could not implement a plan B or C due to Mayweather and what Mayweather was doing. As Pacquiao began to come forward throughout the fight, that's all he could do. If he bounced to the left, Floyd would rotate to his right. If he bounced to the right, Floyd would rotate to his left. It would neutralize all of his attempts to create an opportunity to come in from an angle or to come in from over here. Floyd's moving around. He's watching all of these things like a cat. So other than that, all you can do is just come straight forward because that's what you've been resolved to. So that's why it appeared that Pacquiao didn't have a plan B or plan C. Fourth thing, I believe we can put to rest that Mayweather doesn't have a problem with southpaws, even though you should have known that to begin with. Because just because Zab Judah got some great shots on him and won, the first 3 or 4 rounds, why was it so easy for people to just totally omit the fact that Zab Judah lost rounds 5 through 12? That's 7 rounds you lost. People can say, well, he gassed out. Okay, whatever. You still lost 7 rounds. And Floyd has never lost to a southpaw. Fought against Robert Guerrero, iced him. So where was this consensus that Floyd has problems with southpaws? That's like saying that Pacquiao has problems with orthodox fighters when he's been kicking everybody's ass. That doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense at all. So we can put that to bed now. And the other thing that I picked up from it is Pacquiao is not gracious in defeat. The very first thing that Pacquiao did was he made excuses at the end of the fight. Whew, man, this is tough. When Manny Pacquiao got on the podium during the press conference, before I even go there, when he had his interview with Max Kellerman, and he told Max Kellerman, Floyd was moving around, he didn't want to stand and fight. I'm glad that Max Kellerman put Pacquiao on the hot seat by saying, didn't you know this before going into the fight that Floyd moves? My extra add-on to the question is, did you not do your homework? So it almost sounds like, one, it's a very dangerous statement that Pacquiao was making in this complaint, because one, it can make him sound like he's incompetent. How do you not know the tendencies of your opponent, first of all? Exponentially, this is added. It makes Pacquiao look even worse, because this is Mayweather, the biggest fight of your career and of this generation, and a fight of the century. So you are making yourself look grossly incompetent by complaining that Floyd was moving around. And Max Kellerman was right for asking him, did you not know that going into the fight? Well, the truth is he knew that going into the fight, but he just didn't think that Floyd was just as fast as him, if not a little bit faster, because Floyd was able to get away. So now the next thing that we can put to bed is, who's faster, Floyd or Manny? I say Floyd's faster, because he was able to get away from Manny pretty much all night and keep Manny on the end of a string. Either he's faster or he's just as fast, but we all know that he utilizes everything better than what Pacquiao does. So these are some things that we can put to rest. And what else we got on the docket, man? Another thing that we learned about Pacquiao, what I was going to say was, he doesn't lose gracefully. He's not as gracious in defeat as he is in building up a fight and or victory. When he was at the podium, all he talked about was just, I was not feeling good. My shoulder was hurting. I'm like, where did this come from? You never talked about your shoulder before. You never said anything at all about your shoulder. And now Manny Pacquiao is complaining about his shoulder. He says, I don't want to make an alibi or an excuse, but my shoulder was hurting and I wasn't 100%, but I don't want to make an alibi. Well, you just did. Why don't you just bow out gracefully and say, hey, he was the better man tonight? Then Freddie Roach was talking to him in his ear. Oh, yes, and I also was blah, blah, blah. I could not believe what I was seeing. I was blown away that this trio was actually building up excuses as to why they lost. Then Bob Arum, being a lawyer who studied at Harvard, he went on a 5 to 7, maybe even 10-minute rant on explaining Pacquiao's shoulder situation. Well, you know how it is when you got a shoulder problem. You really can't do anything. So just think about it. Pacquiao wasn't at his best tonight. None of that was talked about, period. Pacquiao was doing mitt work on the mitts 2 days before the fight, and he had shoulder problems? Now, I would think that if a fighter, my fighter, going into a mega fight, if he has shoulder problems, I'm going to save him during that week. And we're not going to be doing mitts. We're not going to be doing mitts at all. So that was some things that I took away from the fight. And I'm going to go ahead and wrap it up because, man, I've been waxing poetically. I guess I had a lot to get out because I haven't done a video in a long time. And so having said that, you guys have questions. Will I be doing a video breakdown of this? Yes. I'm going to be doing a video breakdown of this. I have footage right here. So I'll be working between this station and those two stations over there, putting together a video breakdown for you guys. I'm going to make the video unlisted. because I don't want to get it banned and knocked off of YouTube, because you know it's going to happen. HBO and Showtime are going to be Nazis about anybody posting any footage or audio from this fight. So if you want to know where I'm going to post it, I highly recommend that you go to my Fight Talk Live Facebook page. It's spelled just like it sounds, Fight Talk Live. Facebook.com/Fight Talk Live. Like it on there and send me a message, and connect with me on Google+. Fight Talk Live is my handle on there. Also, you can connect with me as at Andre Gant on Google+, or plus Andre Gant. On Twitter, it's at Andre Gant. So connect with me through there and send me comments on here so that I can let you guys know when the video is going to be posted, but it will be unlisted because I don't want to get it, banned off Google. So, I'm sorry, banned off YouTube, well, which is Google. So, but I appreciate you guys taking the time out. I want to say congratulations to you. You guys are the fans. You guys hung in there, battling it out between each other on blogs, forum posts, everything, just defending your guy, and why your guy would win, why your guy is better, why the other guy isn't, and vice versa. So congratulations, guys. This was your Christmas. And I really hope that, even if it did or did not live up to your expectations, I just hope you soaked it all in and enjoyed it, because I don't know when we'll see something like this again. So I'm signing off. Check me out, Fight Talk Live, at Fight Talk Live on Twitter and Google, and Facebook, and the Google Plus community as well, and at Andre Gant on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter, and Google Plus. Peace.